Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to each of you for being here today. I'd like to first start with Mr. Moak. Thanks again. Good to see you again. You propose restoring loan guarantees for college students undergoing flight training programs. This is a concept that really interests me. I have Parkland Community College in my district, and under the leadership of their president, Tom Ramage, a good friend of mine, they're going to assume control of the aviation program that was once at the University of Illinois. We want to continue to explore ways and policies that will help future pilots succeed. What other innovative means do you think could be employed to recruit students interested in becoming pilots?
You know, we have Congressman, we have the same challenges that's confronting, STEM in the United States. We need to stay focused on getting young men, and I want to emphasize women, into our profession. And the Airline Pilots Association, we're partnering with universities and pushing this hard, but we're being very mindful of the cost of education today. The future is going to be on these young people going through, graduating, and then progressing to a job and a career. And so anything that we can do in that respect, anything this committee can do or the Congress can do, we're all for.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Bedford, you mentioned just in your last question, in your last response, about our military members, our service members can fly hours upon hours, mission upon mission, land multi-million-dollar aircraft on aircraft carriers, and they have to come back and get 500 more hours of certification, did you say?
It depends on how many hours, Congressman, they actually leave the military with. But yes, it's possible for a highly proficient military pilot to leave the service with less than 750 hours, and he would be required under statute to make up the difference before he would be eligible for a restricted ATP.
On average, I mean, how often does that happen?
I think today we're seeing very few military pilots actually coming into the commercial airline business. So one of the challenges we have is the commercial airline business is a seniority-based opportunity, and as a previous congressman had mentioned, people come into the profession looking at it as a career investment, and that career starts with building experience at regional carriers, and then they generally matriculate to mainline, and that's the same path that most military pilots would take as well.
Okay. Well, I'm interested. Now, you brought up a very interesting point that I didn't expect and wasn't on my prepared list of questions. I'd be happy to work with you and the others on the panel to try and address that issue so that our heroes can come back and fill this airline pilot shortage. Mr. Springer, while I have some time left, you did start to talk a little bit about the contract tower program. I have numerous contract towers in my district in central Illinois, and you got into it a little bit, but can you tell me how the contract tower program helps you retain your air service and also how it promotes safety?
Sure, Congressman. Without the contract tower program, we would not have a tower. And if we didn't have a tower, our airlines would struggle to operate at our airport with the frequency and that they currently have. We would not have grown to the point where we are without the contract tower program. When we look at the struggles that we are at now is that the contract tower program isn't built for scale. And so as an airport grows larger, we're still at the scale of a much smaller airport.
One more question for you, Mr. Springer. I know you have experience with the Small Community Air Service Development Program and coming up with your local contributions. From your testimony, I gather that the local buy-in is a key component to your success. And what, if any, changes would you recommend to make that program more effective for airports like you to use?
The key, I think, is exactly what you said, Congressman. It has to have local contribution and buy-in. If the community isn't behind it and supportive of it, it's going to be a difficult struggle altogether. When the community does have the buy-in and is participating financially, they have a vested interest in its success.
Well, thank you. And one last question. Mr. Mann, According to an MIT report released last year, domestic departures declined by more than 21% at small airports between '07 and 2012, but less than 9% at our large hub airports during the same period. What do you think? Why do you think there is such a large discrepancy between the large and the small airports? Is it just price, or what other ideas?
It's primarily a price and the nonstop destinations, and the fact that it's so easy for people in our community to drive to the larger airports. Charlotte is, like I said, the 6th largest airport in the country. It's just over an hour drive away, and they're just a tough competitor. I think what we need to do in the local community, though, is get our costs in line and make a business case to the airlines to serve our market. And I can tell you, our example is when we got to more service and got our costs in line, the airlines did bring capacity back, and we started seeing the customers come back to our airport. So, again, I think for us, it comes back to local control and having a willing airline that's willing to take a risk with us.
Well, thank you. If I had more time, Mr. Chairman, I'd yield back.